The zero-COVID policy is Chinese leader Xi Jinping's brainchild that has become public resentment number one in China. While the rest of the world has treated COVID like the flu, Chinese are still subject to extensive COVID testing and lockdowns. Businesses are suffering, the economy is in the dump, anxiety is soaring, and the Chinese people have had enough. But there's no sign that Beijing will relax the extreme policy soon. Why is Xi so stubborn about zero COVID? The answer is that he wants to be politically correct. But what does that mean? Let's look at the relationship between China's zero COVID policy and the term politically correct. Hello everyone, welcome to Leisrealtalk. I'm Lei. People have lost patience with China's crazy zero COVID policy. In his speech at the 20th Party Congress, however, Xi Jinping reiterated the importance of zero COVID. The week before that, the People's Daily published 3 articles pronouncing that zero COVID is sustainable and must be continued. There are many theories why Xi Jinping is so attached to the draconian public health policy. Some China observers say the regime is using COVID lockdowns as a security measure to maintain stability before Xi has secured his third term. People's mobility is controlled and public gatherings are effectively eliminated. Others say that as the Sino-U.S. relations worsen and the risks of a war with Taiwan increase, Xi's zero COVID looks more like rehearsals to prepare China for a war by installing wartime mechanisms such as food and supply rationing. Many investors and business people outside China are waiting for the relaxation of the policy so they can resume business in China. I think they will be disappointed. In my opinion, after the Party Congress, Beijing may soften the execution of the policy in some local areas. Still, zero COVID will not go away for as long as Xi Jinping is in power. The reason is very simple. Xi cannot afford to change his policy politically. A communist leader must always remain correct, politically correct, that is. CCP leaders have the moral obligation to stay correct because China's Communist Party is bigger than life. The CCP regards itself as the ultimate leader of the Chinese people in both secular and spiritual affairs. The party's role is bigger than that of a spiritual leader. Those of us who grew up in China know that the Chinese Communist Party uses 3 adjectives to describe itself. They are mighty, glorious, and correct. In Chinese, they are 伟大、光荣、正确. As its leader, she must appear mighty, glorious, and correct at all times. This isn't just the case with Xi. All CCP leaders before him were like that. They don't admit mistakes. Those who asked the leader to admit mistakes paid the price. When Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward movement resulted in the disastrous Great Famine that killed tens of millions of Chinese, some of his deputies spoke out against him. But they were later struck down as anti-CCP outcasts. Liu Shaoqi, China's president at the time, who criticized Mao for his political campaign, later died in detention. The communist ideology isn't a tolerating one and doesn't allow its leaders to admit mistakes because they're supposed to be worshipped like quasi-god. There was one CCP leader who admitted a mistake, but he ended up being overthrown. That person was Hua Guofeng, Mao's chosen successor. After Mao's death, Hua was the chairman of the party, the chairman of the military commission, and the premier of the state council, and was the most powerful man in China. Having been chosen by Mao as his successor, Hua's political platform was to uphold all decisions made by Chairman Mao and follow all of Chairman Mao's instructions. However, his platform wasn't accepted by Deng Xiaoping and other party elders. Before the 3rd plenary session of the 11th Party Congress, Deng and the others criticized Hua for his adherence to Mao's leftist legacy. Hua, who many say was easygoing and humble, publicly admitted his mistake. Deng Xiaoping used his admission to overthrow him. So was Hua a hardcore Mao leftist who wouldn't deviate one step? Not really. If he did, he wouldn't have taken down Madame Mao and her gang of 4, whom Mao had trusted. Nor would he reinstate Deng Xiaoping because Mao had outcast Deng. So you see, being left or right doesn't matter much in CCP politics, but being mighty, glorious, and correct is crucial. Hua Guofeng's admission of a mistake could be perceived as a sign of open-mindedness in the West, but in Communist China, it's a sign of weakness that led to his downfall. I'm sure Xi Jinping has learned a lesson from Hua and doesn't want to repeat it. So why doesn't Xi Jinping give up his zero-COVID policy? As the head of the CCP, he can't and won't. Politically, he must hold his ground and not give his political enemies room for advancement. If he admits to having made bad policies, his role as China's spiritual leader will be shaken. He is then not mighty, glorious, or correct. One friend who is a China expert said this to me: how much the zero-COVID policy is affirmed in Chinese media is an indicator of Xi Jinping's power. If one day China's state media stops talking about zero-COVID, Xi's power will be seriously in crisis. So far, Xi appears to have the upper hand, as the state media is still repeating the zero-COVID rhetoric. You see, the CCP's use of the word correct here is where the term political correctness stems from. The Western concept of political correctness is very similar to the CCP's definition of being always correct. First, they're both bigger than life. Did you notice that the politically correct beliefs in the West also assume a moral superiority? Those who subscribe to them speak as if their ideas possess a moral high ground. Secondly, you can't challenge politically correct people because they're mighty, glorious, and correct. If you disagree with them, you have a problem, and public opinion can rise against you. Those of us who have lived in communist societies can see the similarity. Having said all that, I still believe that the CCP leaders' pursuit of political correctness will eventually bring down the regime. It's only a matter of time. This is because no individual or organization in the world doesn't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But having the ability to correct one's errors is a sign of strength, and according to traditional Chinese beliefs, it's also the secret to longevity, whether it's political, physical, or relationship longevity. The CCP doesn't have this strength nor the wisdom to admit to making mistakes, so it's on a path of decay with no return. By the same token, anyone who believes in political correctness is blindly giving up their strength and the ability to develop their own opinion. I wish all my fans, subscribers, and everyone who watches this video great health, happiness, and longevity through self-reflection and improvement. That's the best part of ancient Chinese wisdom. Please like my video and subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.